welcome, welcome.
Welcome indeed. How exciting is it to be here today?
I'm so excited. So, anyone that is listening to this, my name is Leanne,
I'm Maya.
and welcome to the Modern Shakti Files. Yeah,
Yes, indeed. It has been a very interesting morning for us to start with the first episode, setting off our technology, but we are here. And through effort and through challenges is how we reveal more light and truth. So yeah, very exciting. And I will help us to kind of cover a few questions that we have discussed that we want to speak about today for a day one. And yeah, and then we just go from there. Shall we do that?
let's do it. Let's go for it.
Okay. So today we are going to talk about what do we mean with Shakti to begin with. Since this is the Modern Shakti Files, what do we actually mean with Shakti? We're also going to cover the topic, what this channel is, why did we create it to begin with? And how does working with this energy, with your Shakti, Kundalini, change your life in a modern world? And why would you, listening to this, want to work with it? How can you understand it deeper? How does that sound?
Perfect. Let's go for it. Should we start with Shakti? Like, what is Shakti? So, I'm quite happy to start with that, and then you can chip in at any kind of time that you want.
Yes.
So, from my understanding and my teachings and my learnings, Shakti is our own innate life force and it resides in the base of the spine. And most people in their lifetimes, they don't necessarily activate this life force. So, it kind of runs through their body and their system, kind of like a low level dribble of this life force running through the system, and we all have access to this potential within us that can make us feel really, really alive. What would you like to add into that, Mia?
Yeah, I think we froze. So I was just saying that I agree with what you have described, and just adding to that, it's a little bit like what we spoke about, that it is being described in so many different ways with so many different words and topics, and we like to refer to it as Shakti Kundalini because that's what resonates with us mostly. But the most important part is to be able to demystify this energy, that it is something that lives in every living being, and it is our innate power. This is our self-sovereignty and our inner knowing and our inner guidance. And it's all of these incredible, insightful experiences that we can connect with when we go deep into the body. And I guess that's the purpose of why we're even here today, to demystify this incredible Shakti Kundalini that just, oftentimes it's so,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. And it just
yeah,
seems so out there for many people.
yeah. Like we have over 72,000 energy channels in the body, and these channels, when they start to open, when they start to unlock, when they start to purify, is when you start to have more creative energy, more life force, you become more magnetic. Things start to flow with ease, and all of the stories that you tell yourself about your life and your limits, they're just stories that are locked within these channels, that are locked within the body. So it's like if anyone is living and breathing, that is through life force intelligence, that is through their Shakti energy, their creative force. So it's, as you said, like it's innate within anyone. It's not just because me and you have gone through like a Kundalini awakening that we can only access this. It's for everyone. But it's like when you start to connect with that intelligence, when you start to understand your energy in a different way, you start to experience life in a deeper, more meaningful way, more flowing way.
Yeah, 100%. And also remembering what this energy actually does when it starts to move through the body. Like you said, we store so much in our bodies, like every emotion that we didn't have the opportunity to complete the cycle at the time we were experiencing it, because perhaps we didn't have the capacity or the understanding. All of these emotions somehow kind of just stay stuck in the body when we don't let that cycle finish, like shaking it off or just feeling the full emotion of it. And with Shakti, our life force energy, when it starts to move our energy centers, it also purifies our body, pushes everything up to the surface so the body can actually complete these cycles and help us expand our capacity to then hold higher voltage, higher energy. So we are able to feel more. We are able to experience greater joy, but also greater pain, not in a way that is suffering, but pain that is sacred, because all the full spectrums of emotions all of a sudden becomes so powerful and, like I said, sacred to tap into. We start to understand that all of it is from the same source.
And it's intelligent. It's
Yeah,
intelligence. It's not like it's pain for pain's sake. That pain is a teacher. It's intelligence. It's teaching you something. As you said, maybe a loop that hasn't been complete, or something that you really value, something that's important to you. That intelligence becomes a guide that you work with instead of something to suffer through.
100%. Yeah, yeah. And I guess this is so beautiful because we've been having these conversations for some time, because we both got into holding Kundalini activation ceremonies and then obviously branching down to different directions from there, to based on our unique gifts, because every human being is so unique in terms of how you pass on your knowledge. And when you tap into Kundalini Shakti, it's such an embodied experience. Like you have to live it. You can't just conceptualize it. And this is something that we spoke about, that there is so much scripture and ancient texts and ideas what it is and guidelines around how to tap into that, but in reality that's all intellectualized, and you will not know how it feels for you until you live it, even if you and I sit here and explain it,
Yeah.
which actually leads us to the second topic that we've been wanting to touch on, which is, why did we create this channel? What is the purpose behind it? So if you can share a little bit about perhaps your perspective of what is it that we want to
Yeah.
bring from here. Yeah.
Yeah. So as Maya said, we both do this as a business now. So we both work with Kundalini energy in different ways and different forms. And the reason why I wanted to work on this is that my process with Kundalini has been quite a big process, and also in some ways, shape, or forms, it's been quite distressing and hard for me to come to terms with in a modern world, which is why we call it the modern Shakti files, because as a person who is in the Western world and experiencing mysticism, surrounded by people who have never accessed or tapped into things like that, brings its own unique challenges internally for you to navigate and to accept the process that you're actually going through. So I wanted to set this up so that we could normalize some of these mystical things, because it's part of our being. We are spiritual beings having a human experience, and mysticism is normal as a spiritual being. So it's to normalize those different experiences, to give a platform where we can share some of our personal day-to-day embodiment of how that looks, how we work with it, so that people can start to feel more comfortable with embodying who they really are. Because most people are walking around wearing masks, and half the time they don't know they're wearing masks, because it's been so indoctrinated and ingrained from such a young age that we get to be, the lighthouse that gets to take them off and show them what it looks like to look like bare, raw in your soul. And I'm like, in your soul, in your spirit, take it off. What does that look like? And to hopefully share, some funny things that have happened with it, and the
Yeah.
journey, and bring you along with our experiences. So that for me is what's really important. How about you?
Yeah, exactly. And this is the powerful part, right? Like spirituality and all the mystical experiences, they are really cool as the step on the journey of like, oh, there is something more than what I perceived in my everyday life, what I thought that life was about. But true embodiment and progress matters when we're able to no longer look at it as something outside of us, like a mystical experience, but really understand that this is part of who we are every single day. And it's not just something that gurus or monks are practicing, in an ashram or in a in an isolated island and reaching enlightenment. This is something that can be tapped into and embodied while having a modern life, because collectively we are evolving. Like, the collective consciousness has evolved so much in the last 10 years. Even if you look at people from 5 years ago and where we are today, so many of us having these experiences spontaneously. And one day we sit in the office and a year later you're like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I can't continue like this anymore. And it's like, like you said, many people feel alone because it feels like you're losing your mind. And you had very, like, challenging experiences, which is something we're gonna talk about because they are very, very interesting stories. And I had the other side of it where I had very deep experiences, like in ceremonies and certain things happening, but it hasn't been like out of control. And then also there are people who might go through that part where they're like, okay, I've gone into this ceremony, something happened to me, but people online say that this is so dangerous and I should wake up in the middle of the night and have full body orgasms and shake, otherwise it's not valid. And this is what we're here to share, that as the amount of people there are there the amount of people, ways to have a Kundalini experience, and is going to impact you in such unique ways, like every part of your life, but it's going to be very unique to you.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think the important thing that we want to get from this podcast is, like, we've both done like levels of training with different gurus, different mentors, different teachers. But this is around, we're not fixing our approach. We are literally talking about the day-to-day living with this kind of energy. So we don't subscribe to know absolutely everything. Everything in this world is like a belief system. Everything in this world is a belief system. And scripture, all of these different things, ancient texts, they can be helpful, but this is through the lens of us. This
Lived
is through the
experience.
lens, of our
Yeah.
lived experience. And that's all we can share and we can talk about. I think people being able to relate to a lived experience is what is going to make people feel comfortable to go, oh, okay, yeah, this can happen. This is possible. Yeah, okay, that makes a little bit more sense. So we are not preaching to be the almighty gurus of Kundalini Shakti. We are here to be supporters and helpers and educate and share. And yeah, that's what I hope that we're going to get from these episodes.
Yeah. And also, I just kind of want to touch on the part where perhaps for us it's very obvious because we are in the field of working with this energy, and we see a lot of facilitators popping up, right? Like in the last few years, we see more and more people kind of coming forward, and not just facilitators, clients of ours, for example, who approach us and be like, I had this experience, what is it? Which is another very important thing to mention, that it's going to keep on happening. Yeah, but are you with me?
Nothing. Nothing. No, I didn't hear
Great.
nothing.
So what was the last, did you didn't hear me say anything?
No, it kind of like
Yeah.
dipped in and out. So
Okay.
I was like,
That sounds great,
oh
Maya.
my God, I've got pins and needles.
You want to shake them off? You want to shake your
No,
pinky?
it's like, the pins and needles that make you feel really, really tickly. So you can't even move, otherwise you just sit and giggle.
Yeah, like pain and pleasure all at the same time. Yeah, I think what I was just talking about is we were talking about that there were a lot of facilitators and people who approached us having these experiences more and more these last few years. And the fact that we know that this is something that will only continue even more because we are going through a collective evolution. And Kundalini Shakti can be also translated into embodying your Christ consciousness, living from your heart. You know, there's so many different ways to kind of look at it, because any spiritual or new age practice, I won't say any because I don't want to take the disclaimer for all of them, but the intention really is to remember, to lead you back home to yourself, so we can walk and be sovereign human beings with self-authority and compassion and live through unity consciousness. And that's essentially what tapping into this energy, to this power within you, is eventually leading you to. Because there's a lot of stuff that are coming up along the way. Doubts, fears, subconscious patterns. So, you know, it's going to lead us into, I think, the third topic that we really wanted to speak about, like how does this actually change your life? Because it changes every single part of it so powerfully. And why would someone want to even go down the path to work with it, to perhaps have a session, to experience, to feel it of in their own skin, in their own body? So so if you maybe want to start with, let's say, how this changed your life. You know, just a minor topic, basically.
Just a minor. So first of all, it's like, it's a shift in how consciousness experiences itself. And what I mean when I say that is that prior to going through this experience, my identity was who I was. So I was a health, safety, environmental advisor for a business, and that was who I was. That was how I experienced myself, as that identity. And then when you start to go through this experience, you start to experience yourself as everything. And what I mean when I say that is that you realize your innate connectiveness to everything around you. So you experience that oneness from within. And the consequence of that on a kind of day-to-day basis is, I was always quite an ethically lived person anyway, but it changes how you engage with the world, because you're not separate from it. You're not separate from Mother Earth. You're not separate from the person next to you. And that doesn't mean that it gives everyone a free-for-all to just treat you however they want, but it changes how you engage with the world and how you see things. And in my own personal experience, what has been the most transformative is the shifts in consciousness and awareness. And what I mean when I say that is the understanding of myself as a being and all of the prior experiences that molded me into the consciousness, the awareness that I was. And it empowers me to start to make different choices, to go, okay, I now understand I was behaving that way because of X. And as a conscious creator, I can choose a different path. I also deeply, deeply feel my power. And what I mean when I say that is like current, like moving through my being, like the real raw power within me. I feel that, and I know that to be true. So I don't walk around the world allowing people to not treat me like I'm not a goddess and I'm not powerful, because it's within me and I can feel it. And also like the radiance, the pleasure, the bliss, the ability to feel life so deeply. So like when I'm eating something, like my senses are just having like an electrical fire of their own. When I touch someone, the connection, the depth of touch and the electricity, it's like, it's a whole different way of experiencing life, where it's like, wow, like we get, just wow. And most people are walking through life, you know, in this autopilot. They don't see what's around them. They don't access their senses. They don't feel their being. They see the Matrix 3D world and they believe that's who they are.
and being in their head, like trying to like figure
Yeah,
things out versus like, I don't actually need to have all the answers from here. I can just kind of be present. What does my body tell me right now? Like, what's the
yeah.
feedback here?
Yeah, yeah, and let life surprise you as well. Let the life that moves through you, trust that enough to trust that it's for you and that it's serving you, and that's a whole different it's a whole different way of navigating the world, and it would give most people who are in the matrix, who are very logical thinking, it'd give them a heart attack, because like they'd be like, no, I need to do this, I need to control that, and it's like, no, there's something around you that's organizing reality for you if you
Yeah,
let it.
yeah. Exactly. Like if you don't feel the organic intelligence within yourself, it's very hard to trust that it is something that governs everything, not just, inside of you. And also on the flip side, if you feel it within yourself, you know that, oh gosh, I got this incredible connection to something I can feel, but perhaps not mentally fathom, then surely everyone is governed by that same organic intelligence. I don't have to, you know, find solutions to every single problem. I just need to be present and observe and allow it to unfold and trust. And I think
Mm,
surrender is also a very powerful part of our of this experience, because the modalities that we have both practiced, so particularly Kundalini activations, are the practice of surrender into
mm,
the body's subtle sensations. Because there are obviously different ways to tap into this energy. Neither is better than the other. It's just what works for some people. We all very unique. But we both gone down the path of learning, or not learning, but experiencing the power and the beauty of dropping into stillness, and from stillness allowing the subtle sensations and the tingles and the energy to kind of bring you into a dance, into an experience, without forcing, without pushing and directing, which, like you said, it helps you eventually to apply that in your everyday life too, like how you show up when you're in the city and you're meeting people, and you know you kind of start noticing things just happening around you, and rather than wanting to jump in and be reactive about it, of like, I need to make sure this goes this way, because otherwise all of these excuses that the mind usually gives us, you actually really feel that, you know what, it might look bad on the surface right now, but I know that it comes from the same intelligence that's within me, and it's innately good, right? It's not here to punish, to make us suffer. Pain is not a punishment. It's part of how we reveal more wisdom, more light, more understanding. And like, I really liked what you said earlier about pain, because that's very important. That it's not like a intentionally cause myself pain, but how can I really be present with being a human being in every single aspect and element of it,
yeah,
right?
yeah. In every expression, even if that
Yeah.
expression is not what people deem to be the nice expressions, because grief, for example, is a part of the human experience. Sadness, anger, rage, all of these different emotions that people feel are undesired, a lot of the
Yeah.
time it's because we were never able to express them. And because
Yeah.
of that, we learn that they're bad or they're wrong. And it's an energy, it's an emotion in the form of energy that moves through us. And through this process, we get to change our relationship with emotions and energy. And how's it impacted your life personally?
Yeah, I was just thinking that as well, because it's like, sure, it's great to experience emotions differently. But I would certainly say that in the beginning, that wasn't my motivation. I didn't look into receive a Kundalini energy healing or something similar, because I'm like, I wish I could feel my emotions deeper. And it certainly had, different impacts to begin with. And I think this is a very interesting thing, because I know this from everyone who I have spoken to who had this experience. the main thing we can all agree on is that it has changed our lives 180 degrees, like in our own way.
360.
Yeah, but we're gonna kind of bring you back. So that's why I always say 180, because life will never look the same like it's done
Yeah.
before, right? And for me, like some of the first signs, like the first year or so, at least, was very much about rearranging these things that are out of balance in my current reality that no longer serve me. So let it be me being in a job that I don't enjoy, that doesn't serve me, that is not in alignment with my purpose. And I'm only doing it because I'm under the impression that I need to do this in order to survive. So basically, that mentality of survival is starting to really shift and deconstruct itself, where we start questioning that, hold on a second. Who made us believe that we need to have a job? And gosh, are we frozen again?
No, we're okay. We're okay.
Okay. Your screen froze for a second. Yeah, so who made us believe that we need to, do things that literally sucks the life out of us for the rest of our lives, just to be able to have weekends and holidays when we can finally live? Like, these things actually start to really make no sense no more. And that's a hard pill to swallow, isn't it? Because you're like, what do you mean? Well, what am I going to do otherwise? So that's a huge shift. And then you start questioning yourself, like, what is my purpose? What brings me joy? What is it I want to do and I would do no matter what, because I just enjoy it? And then also the things that do not bring joy or are not in alignment become non-negotiable. So my job fell away, I would say, within a year and a half.
Same.
Yeah. Yeah, very common. And relationships start to fall away. They're not in
Yeah.
alignment,
Same.
right? Yeah. Where you have to, like, overextend yourself, over explain yourself. You start having less tolerance. Not that like tolerance in a way of like, I'm not gonna tolerate you, but it's just for self-honoring. Like, I don't want to explain myself or overextend myself. Meet me halfway and we move from there. And I think inner peace was like the third major thing for me, because I was so wired. Like, I remember I used to wake up 6 a.m, going into an office that I'm like, I don't want to do this shit. And just wake up jolted out of bed of like, I was already fuming and I was pissed off that this is the day that I'm going to have in front of me. I'm like, I don't want to do this. And I'm on my way to the underground, just like fuming. I'm like, get out of my way. I'm going to have the worst day. And that was just like my baseline, you know? And then obviously you have the habits, like numbing habits and anything else, to just kind of take that pain away of beingness in a world that doesn't bring us joy. And it's like this toxic cycle that keeps repeating, and that starts to break immediately. Right? Like, you actually wake up and you might be in the same reality, because it takes some time for our material reality to catch up with the internal changes. But you just show up differently. You're like, okay, I'm here. That's fine. It's it's a completely different baseline. And like you said, you start to feel powerful just because you are very present with yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Take a deep inhale for the nose. Big sigh. Big sigh.
Beautiful.
So, next episode. What did we say we're going to cover in the next episode? Are we going to give them a little bit more insight into both me and you in the next episode, so you can hear a little bit about our challenges up till this point in terms
Yeah.
of life challenges? Because I think that's really helpful, because culture, experience, upbringing is fundamentally going to impact the intensity of your Kundalini awakening, and also the level of inner kind of experience that you're going to have. So next episode, if you tune in, you're going to hear a little bit about us and our what brought us to this point thus far.
Yeah.
So
Like
that
the
you
more
can,
personal bits, the juicy
yeah,
personal stories.
yeah, exactly. So do we feel like that's complete?
Yeah, yeah, I think
Yeah,
so. Yeah. Oh, this is kind of getting here, and I guess this is another part of it, just like adding to the end of like, eventually just being so present with the journey and every little new unfoldment that it brings. So yeah,
yeah,
it's the experience of it all.
yeah, 100%. So thank you guys for tuning in,
Thank
and
you.
yeah, I hope you tune into the next episode and you'll hear a little bit about us, because if you are going through one of these experiences, if you're going through a Kundalini awakening, it's really interesting to listen to people's stories that you can resonate, and you might go, oh yeah, I experienced that too. Like that makes so much sense. So you
Without
can
feeling
relate to
so
us a bit more.
alone. Yeah,
Yeah. We're
exactly.
just humans. Well, we're spiritual beings, but we're just normal people. Do you know what I mean? We're just like you.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Thank you, my love. See you next
Thank you,
time.
too. Bye 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 bye.